The moonlight was shining in through the window of his bedroom, and it hit him right in the face, rousing him from his sleep. And as he slowly opened his eyes, all that he could see was darkness, and so he assumed that it was still late at night. However, as his eyes slowly began to adjust to the darkness, he began to notice things. He noticed cobwebs hanging from the corners of the room and a spider crawling up the wall. But what really got his attention was the thing that was crawling around on his bed. He sat up in bed with a start and began to take in what he was seeing. The thing on his bed seemed to be small at first, but it was definitely there. And as he watched, it continued to grow larger. Its legs were long and spindly, and its head seemed to be massive compared to its body. It looked like some kind of alien creature straight out of a science fiction movie. But then he noticed two things that made him realize that this was no movie monster. First, he could see the veins pulsing through the creature's head and body. Second, where the creature's head ended, a tail began. A tail that twitched back and forth nervously. This was not a movie monster. This was a real-life nightmare. And then the creature let out a screech, a sound that echoed around the room and woke his wife. She screamed as she saw the creature too. The man quickly jumped out of bed and ran to his wife's side to comfort her. But what should he do about the monster? It seemed to have come out of nowhere, and now it was slowly beginning to inch forward towards them. They stood there frozen in fear as the creature continued to move closer and closer. How did this couple escape the clutches of this horrifying beast? What is this beast anyway? We may never know for sure, but one thing is for certain. It crawls when you're asleep. It was just another ordinary night for the married couple. They had put their 2 kids to bed hours ago, and they were enjoying some quiet time together before going to bed themselves. But as the minutes turned into hours, the quiet became deafening. They began to hear strange noises coming from the walls and the floorboards. At first they thought it was nothing more than the wind, or maybe an animal in the attic. But then the noises started to get louder and more frequent. They were definitely coming from inside the house. Then they heard it. A scratching sound, like something dragging itself across the floor. It was coming from their son's room. The couple looked at each other and then at the door to their son's room. What should they do? The husband decided to investigate. He told his wife to stay in bed while he went to check it out. He crept down the hallway towards his son's room and listened at the door. All he could hear was the scratching sound. He knocked on the door and called out to his son, but there was no reply. Taking a deep breath, he opened the door and stepped inside. He looked around the room, but everything seemed to be normal. The bed was neatly made, the toys were in their place, and his son's clothes were hanging in the closet. He checked under the bed and in the closet, but there was nothing there. Just as he was about to give up and go back to bed, he saw it. It was small at first, but as he got closer, he realized that it was moving. He backed away slowly, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. It was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen before. It was humanoid in shape, but it was covered in a thick layer of fur. Its eyes were glowing red, and its teeth were bared in a snarl. The creature let out a hiss and lunged at him, screamed and ran out of the room. The creature hot on his heels, could hear it snarling and screeching as it chased him down the hallway. He could feel its hot breath on his neck as it gained on him. He could see its sharp claws extended, ready to dig into his flesh. But he didn't dare turn around to look at it. He didn't want to see the hatred and fury in its eyes. He burst through the front door and ran out into the street. He didn't stop running until he was several blocks away from home. He could still hear the creature screeching in the distance, but it was getting fainter now. He was safe, or so he thought. As the days went by, the man couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He would walk down the street and feel a pair of eyes on him. He would turn around, but of course he would see nothing. He would go to work and feel the same sensation. He would look around, but everyone was busy with their own lives. No one else felt the danger that he felt. He was being followed. One night, he and his wife were watching TV when it happened. The lights flickered and the TV went dead. Then they heard it again, the scratching sound. It was coming from the attic this time. They could hear it moving around up there, just like the night before. The man got up and went to the attic door. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest. Was it up there? Had it been hiding in the attic all this time? He reached for the doorknob and took a deep breath. This was it. There was no turning back now. He opened the door and stepped inside. The attic was dark and dusty, but he could see enough to make out the shape of the creature. It was standing in the corner watching him, The man froze. In that moment, he could feel the hatred and fury coming off the creature in waves. He wanted to run, but he couldn't move. He was paralyzed with fear, and then the creature moved. It took a step towards him, then another. The man screamed and ran. He ran as fast as he could, as if the creature were right behind him. He could hear its footsteps pounding on the wooden floor. He burst through the attic door and raced downstairs. He could feel its hot breath on his neck. He could hear its snarling and screeching echoing behind him. He didn't stop running until he was outside, away from the house, away from the creature. He never looked back. He never wanted to see that creature again. But the creature kept coming back. Every night it would come out of its hiding place and stalk him, hunting him like a predator hunts its prey. He tried to fight back, but what could he do against such a powerful, vicious creature? He was just a human being. It was like something straight out of a nightmare. And then, one night, as he was hiding in his closet, he heard a voice in his head. It was a raspy, guttural voice. It said, "Give me your soul, and I will end your suffering." He knew that the creature was offering him a deal, but what choice did he have? He was trapped in his own home, unable to escape the clutches of this horrifying beast. And so he agreed. The creature screeched with delight and lunged at him.
Ay, ay.
He could feel its claws digging into his flesh, tearing at his bones. But it wasn't painful. It was actually quite pleasurable. He felt a surge of power coursing through his veins as his soul was ripped from his body.
Ow!
The creature let out a roar and vanished along with his soul. His wife and kids were never able to understand what happened to him. They found his body in the morning, but there was no sign of a struggle. It was as if he had simply fallen asleep and never woken up. But they didn't know that he was gone forever. His soul had been taken by the very thing that had haunted him for so long. The creature had finally won. And as the years went by, people in town began to whisper about the house. They said that it was cursed, that it was the home of a monster, and maybe they were right. Maybe the house did have something to do with the disappearance of the man. Or maybe it was just a coincidence, who knows? All we know is that the creature got what it wanted, crawled into the house and claimed its prize. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like before you go. Thanks for watching.